welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will show you how to make this lovely V-stitch scarf. For this scarf, you can make it as big or as small as you want. Here I have an example of what a V-stitch scarf looks like. My scarf is 6 inches wide and 56 inches long. If you want to make a scarf, I would suggest the V-stitch because it goes the fastest. For this scarf, you will need 1 roll of yarn. Then you need a 4 1/4 millimeter crochet needle, scissors, and a sewing needle to weave in your ends at the end. So let's get started. First step, you will get your yarn. You will make a slip knot first. Insert your needle in the center and then you pull the end to make the knot. You can make another knot just to make sure that it's nice and snug and tight. Now, the second step, you will make 18 loose chains. So yarn over and go through the first loop. So we're going to do 18. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Now it's very important when you do the V-stitch that the chains itself are loose like this. A lot of times when you start making your scarf and the chains are really tight, at the ends they start to curl up. You don't want that to happen. So now that you have your 18 chains, you will count from the hook 3 chains. 1, 2, and 3. On the third chain, you yarn over, go into the third chain, and you're going to do a double crochet. Yarn through 2 loops, yarn through another 2 loops. Chain 1. You will go into the same chain that you started with, which is the third chain from the hook. Yarn over, go into that chain, and you will do a double crochet. Remember, you do 2 double crochets. Now you will count from where you left off, 1, 2, and in the third chain, you're going to go into that one next. Yarn over, go into that third chain, do a double crochet 2 times. Then you will chain 1, yarn over, go into that same chain once again, and you do a double crochet. As you can see, you are forming the V already. You can stretch it out a little bit and you can see the V's right in this area. Now you're going to yarn over and go into the third chain. So you always want to skip 2 chains and go into the third chain and do a double crochet. So that's your first double crochet. Now to make the V shape, chain 1, then you go into the same chain again and you do another double crochet. Just like that. Now you're going to skip 2 chains, which is 1, 2, and go into the third chain. and you will do another double crochet. Chain 1, yarn over, go into that same chain and do another double crochet. There's another V right here. Skip 2 chains, 1, 2, then you go into the third chain, do another double crochet, chain 1, go into that same chain, do a double crochet, and now you have another V. Skip 2 chains, 1, 2, yarn over, go into the third chain, do a double crochet, chain 1, do another double crochet into that same chain, and there's another V. Next, skip 2 chains, 1, 2, go into the third chain and do a double crochet, chain 1, yarn over, go into that same chain, do a double crochet, and there is the V-shaped stitch. Now you skip 2 chains, 1, 2, yarn over, and you go into the third chain and do another double crochet, chain 1, yarn over, go into that same chain, do a double crochet, and that's how it's supposed to look, the V stitch. Once you finish the first row, then you're going to chain 2, 1, 2, turn your work, and now that you have the V stitch, if you pull it apart, you can see the V's. There's a V right there. So you will skip this here, the center, yarn over, go into the V stitch and do a double crochet. Chain 1, go into that same V stitch and make a double crochet. Just like this. Basically, this is going to be a repetition on every single row. So you can make this scarf as long as you want, and it's the same pattern for every row. Just remember that when you finish one row, you chain 2, turn your work, and you go into the first V stitch from the end, and you just continue that pattern. So now I have a couple of V stitches here, which is one V stitch, and here's the next one. So now you're going to skip 2 and go into the third V and do a double crochet. Chain 1, go into the V stitch, do a double crochet. Then you skip 2, 1, 2, and then go into this V stitch here. Yarn over, go into the V, do a double crochet, chain 1, yarn over, go into that V stitch, do a double crochet. Then you skip 2, 1, 2, and you go into the next V, which is this one here. Yarn over, go into the V stitch, do a double crochet, chain 1, go into the V stitch, do another double crochet. And as you work your rows, you can do a little pulling so they don't get crumbled up. Just make sure it's loose. Then you skip 2, 1, 2, yarn over, go into the third V stitch, do a double crochet, chain 1, yarn over, go into that V stitch again, and do a double crochet. Skip 2, and now we're approaching the end. Yarn over, go into that V stitch, do a double crochet, chain 1, yarn over, and go into that same V stitch. So now you have completed the second row, and for the next row you will make 2 chains, then you will turn your work, and then you go into the V stitch. So let's do one more row so you kind of get an idea how it looks. So first you chain 2, 1, 2, turn your work, then you will skip this here, this little opening here, and you will go into the next V stitch. Yarn over, go into that V stitch, do a double crochet, chain 1, yarn over, go into that same V stitch. And you always make sure you do that chain every time you separate from one double crochet to the next. Now you count 1, 2, and you go into the third, which is this V stitch here. Yarn over, go into that V stitch, do a double crochet, chain 1, yarn over, and you go into that V stitch once again. Yarn over, then you count 1, 2, go into the next V stitch, do a double crochet, chain 1, yarn over, go into that V stitch, and there you have another V. Yarn over, and you count 1, 2, then you go into the next V and do a double crochet. Chain 1, yarn over, and go into that same V stitch. Yarn over, do a double crochet, and there you have another V. Yarn over, then you count 1, 2, and you go into the next V stitch. Chain 1, yarn over, and go into that same V stitch. Okay, now we're approaching the end. So what I do, yarn over, go into that end part, do a double crochet, chain 1, yarn over, and go into that same stitch once again. Okay, so here is your V stitch. Now you can make it as long as you want, how wide you want it, because I know some people like their scarves to be thin, some like to make it look wider. And what I like to do at the end of my scarves or with blankets, I like to put a really beautiful border around it so it looks more presentable. So let me show you how I do the border. So now that I'm all done with the third row, I would chain 2, 1, 2, turn my work, then I will go into that V stitch again. So I yarn over and I go into that V stitch and I do a double crochet. Yarn over, go into that same V-stitch once again, and that's 2 double crochets. I like to do at least 4 or 5 double crochets all in the same hole, on the same chain. So let's do this again. Yarn over, go into that same hole, and you do a double crochet. So now you have a total of 3. So you have 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to do one more. Yarn over, go into that same stitch, and do a double crochet. Now that you have that little wave, you can see that little wave there at the end. Now you're going to slip stitch to join. And there's your first wave. I call it like little shells. So let's do that all the way to the end. Now yarn over, go into the next V-stitch, do another double crochet. So that's 1, yarn over, and then do another double crochet. That's 2, 3, and 4. Then on the next chain here next to that little shell, you will do a slip stitch to join. So there's your second little shell. See the waves? Now yarn over and you find the next V-stitch, which is going to be right in here. So yarn over, go into that V-stitch, and you will be making 4 double crochets. So that was 1, this is 2, 3, and number 4. Then this chain right here, you will make a slip stitch to join. So now you have 1 shell, 2 shells, 3 shells. Then you go into the next V-stitch, which is right here. Yarn over, go into that V-stitch, make a double crochet. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then you do a slip stitch on the next chain. And then now you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, go into the next V-stitch, do a double crochet. That was 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is how it should look. Next, you yarn over, go into the next V-stitch, do another double crochet. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now you just slip stitch to join. So there's your ruffles. You can call ruffles or shells. And this will look really pretty for a scarf. Well, I hope you found this video helpful. Please subscribe to my channel for good recipes and crocheting tips. Thank you. Bye.